take a look at Steve Kerr and Draymond getting into it. Heated argument during a timeout. Green would actually get up and leave the bench and miss the final 20 minutes of the game. Finishes with 26. Draymond would return to the bench, but he would not play.
Man, if you've been watching the NBA long enough, you already know this feeling. That moment when the camera accidentally catches something it wasn't supposed to catch. A glance turns into a stare. A stare turns into words. And suddenly, the entire night shifts. That's exactly what happened in Golden State, in a game that was supposed to be about a comfortable Warriors win. Instead, all anyone is talking about is Draymond Green and Steve Kerr, standing on the sideline, locked into a heated exchange that felt way bigger than the box score. So let me ask you this right now. When you saw Draymond and Steve Kerr going at it on the bench, did you think, this is just classic Draymond? Or did it feel different this time? Drop your take in the comments, because this one has the entire NBA world split.
We got into it, obviously, and you know, I took the time out just because I thought we lost our focus there a little bit, and so we had it out a little bit, and you know, he made his decision to go back to the locker room to cool off, and that's all I'm going to say about it. It's everything is private, and yeah, I got nothing further to add.
Now here's the thing. This wasn't just any argument. This wasn't a rookie getting yelled at. This wasn't a role player missing a rotation. This was Draymond Green, the emotional engine of a dynasty, going back and forth with Steve Kerr, the coach who's defended him more than anyone else in the league for nearly a decade. And when those two clash, it hits different.
I just thought it was best that I got out of there. I don't think there was a situation where it was going to get better. So it was just best to remove myself.
Golden State wins the game. Steph finishes with 26. Jimmy Butler adds 21. Everything looks fine. But nobody's talking about the final score. They're talking about the moment Draymond storms toward the tunnel, disappears into the locker room, comes back later, and never checks back into the game.
Finishes with 26. Draymond would return to the bench, but he would not play.
And that's where the questions start. Because Draymond Green doesn't just sit. Not in close games. Not in emotional games. Not unless something bigger is happening. If you watched it live, you probably did a double take. If you saw it on social media later, you definitely replayed it. Draymond on the bench, animated, arms moving, clearly frustrated. Steve Kerr standing firm, jaw tight, saying something back. No smiling, no laughing it off. This wasn't playful. This wasn't competitive banter. This was real tension, the kind that only happens when both sides care deeply and both sides believe they're right. And what makes it so fascinating is the history. These two aren't strangers. They're not a new coach and a volatile player trying to figure each other out. They've been through wars together, 4 championships, endless playoff runs, countless moments where Kerr backed Draymond publicly when the entire basketball world was telling him to stop. Suspensions, ejections, controversies. Every time, Kerr stood there and said, "That's who he is. We win because of it."
There's a moment on the sidelines between he and Steve Kerr, who, by the way, is a coach who's had his back time and time again. But it's a very heated exchange, if you will, which leads to Draymond heading over to the locker room, takes a little cool-off period, does come back to the bench, but he does not re-enter the game after that 8.5 mark in the third quarter.
So when this happens, you have to ask, what changed? Or maybe nothing changed at all. Because if you really know Draymond Green, this moment actually makes perfect sense. Draymond has phases. That's the best way to describe it. Warriors Draymond, defensive genius Draymond, emotional leader Draymond. And then there's the version that pushes the line so hard that it scares people. Sometimes even scares his own team. That version showed up on the sideline. And Steve Kerr? He's not some passive coach who just lets stars do whatever they want. He's competitive. He's intense. He's been in locker rooms with Michael Jordan. He understands fire. But he also understands structure. And when Draymond crosses into a space where the team starts losing focus, Kerr will push back, even if it's uncomfortable.
Quite honestly, if everybody's okay with being 15 and 15 and it's just whoop-de-doo, talk to me when they're 41 and 41. Can't be whoop-de-doo when you're 15 and 15. Something gotta give.
What makes this moment explode online is the optics. Draymond leaves the bench. He goes to the locker room. The Warriors go on a massive run without him, a 41-18 stretch that completely breaks the game open. That's the kind of stat that fuels narratives. Suddenly people are saying, see, they're better without him. Suddenly the same arguments from years ago resurface. Is Draymond more trouble than he's worth? Is the leash finally shorter? Is this the beginning of the end? But here's where context matters. Draymond was leading the league in turnover percentage going into that night. That's real. That's not narrative. And when you're a player whose value doesn't come from scoring, mistakes get magnified. If you're missing assignments, forcing passes, or not synced with the game plan, coaches will get on you. Even if you're a Hall of Famer. And Draymond felt it. You could see it on his face. The frustration wasn't just with Kerr, it was with himself, with the flow of the game, with the moment slipping away. He even said afterward that he didn't think the situation was going to get better in that moment.
Spilled over, and I just thought it was best that I got it. I don't think there was a situation where it was going to get better. So it was just best to remove myself. Quite honestly, if everybody's okay with being 15 and 15 and it's just whoop-de-doo, talk to me when they're 41 and 41. Can't be whoop-de-doo when you're 15 and 15. Something gotta give.
That's actually maturity, in a strange way. Old Draymond might have stayed there and exploded, might have gotten a technical, might have crossed a line that leads to suspension headlines. Instead, he walked away, cooled off, came back, sat down. Kerr didn't put him back in. Message sent, message received. And here's the part people miss. That's trust. Only a coach who trusts a player deeply can bench him without it becoming a disaster. Only a player who trusts a coach deeply can accept that without blowing the locker room apart. This isn't a crack. This is a pressure release. If this was a different coach, different franchise, different relationship, yeah, this would be nuclear. This would be national emergency talk radio for a week straight. Trade rumors, locker room chemistry speculation. But with these two, it lands differently. Because this relationship has survived worse. People forget the practices, the shouting, the behind-the-scenes blow-ups we never saw. The championships don't happen without those moments. Golden State's entire identity was built on accountability mixed with freedom. And Draymond is the embodiment of that balance. Basketball-wise, his impact is still undeniable. 3rd in defensive rating, top of the league in communication, 4th in steals, 8th in assists. Draymond doesn't fill the box score, but he fills the gaps. He's the reason shooters get open. He's the reason rotations are early. He's the reason the Warriors can still defend at an elite level despite age and injuries. So when fans say, trade him, the question becomes, trade him for what? Who's replacing that voice, that mind, that presence? And more importantly, where does Draymond even fit outside Golden State? Sure, there are coaches who would love him, young teams that need toughness, locker rooms that need a heartbeat. But the fit matters. Draymond isn't plug and play. He's system dependent. He thrives in motion offense. He thrives next to elite shooters. He thrives when the organization understands his personality and accepts the chaos that comes with it. Golden State does. That's why the idea of Draymond retiring anywhere else feels wrong. Just like Steph in another jersey feels wrong. Just like Klay leaving already feels weird. Dynasties don't end cleanly, but some bonds are bigger than contracts. And that's why, despite the drama, this moment doesn't feel like a breakup. It feels like a married couple arguing loudly in public. Uncomfortable to watch, but not surprising if you know how long they've been together. Zoom out even further, and this game is really about where the Warriors are now. not dominant, not feared like before, but still dangerous, still annoying to play against, still capable of ripping off runs that bury teams when Steph catches fire. Are they a top 4 seed? Probably not. The West is brutal, younger, deeper, faster. OKC, Denver, Minnesota, Houston. Those teams are trending up. Golden State is fighting time. But that doesn't mean they're irrelevant. Because nobody wants to see Steph Curry in a playoff series. Nobody wants to deal with that shooting, that movement, that pressure. And Draymond, for all the chaos, is still the chess piece that makes it all work. And maybe that's why this moment hits so hard. Because it reminds everyone that this era is fragile, that these nights are numbered, that every argument, every benching, every weird sideline moment feels heavier when you know the end isn't that far away. Steph is still doing things at year 17 that shouldn't be possible. 6-for-6 stretches, playing through ankle issues, drawing double teams like it's 2016. And people are already wondering, how long can this last? The crazy thing? Steph might actually age better than anyone expects. Shooting ages well. Movement ages well if the body holds up. Imagine him at 40, not the focal point, just drifting into space and punishing defenses. It sounds unreal, but we've already seen the rules broken by LeBron. And Draymond? His value won't disappear overnight either. Defense, IQ, leadership, those don't vanish. They just get harder to manage.
And that passion is exactly why moments like this divide fans so sharply. Because Draymond Green forces you to pick a side. You either see a competitor who cares so much that it spills over, or you see a liability who never learned when to stop. There's rarely a middle ground with him, and maybe that's the point. The NBA doesn't really have many players left like this. Guys who operate on emotion first, instinct second, and reputation third. In a league increasingly driven by efficiency charts, load management, and carefully curated media responses, Draymond feels like a throwback. Loud, messy, unfiltered. And that's uncomfortable for people, especially when the winning isn't as automatic as it used to be. Because let's be honest, if the Warriors were sitting at the top of the West right now, this moment barely registers. It's a clip. It's a shrug. That's just Draymond being Draymond. Winning has always been the great eraser. Everything turnover, every argument, every decision to sit a guy the rest of the game. That's why this exchange landed with weight. Not because it was unprecedented, but because of when it happened. Golden State is in that awkward in-between stage. Not bad enough to blow it up, not good enough to feel secure. Too experienced to rebuild, too flawed to dominate. And in that space, tension is inevitable. Veterans feel urgency, coaches feel pressure, young guys feel uncertainty, and Draymond feels all of it at once. That urgency shows up in how he talks, how he moves, how he reacts when things aren't crisp. Because Draymond has never been wired to coast. He doesn't know how to quietly drift through an 82-game season. Every possession matters to him, sometimes too much. And when he feels the standards slipping, when he feels the details getting sloppy, he reacts the only way he knows how. Which brings us back to that bench. Two fiery competitors, two pillars of a dynasty. One emotional night. Cameras rolling when they shouldn't have been. Fans overreacting like they always do. And yet, beneath all of it, the same truth remains. This is who they are. This is how they've always been. And as long as Draymond Green is wearing a Warriors jersey and Steve Kerr is pacing that sideline, moments like this aren't signs of collapse. They're reminders of how much it still matters. Because apathy kills teams. Passion keeps them alive. And Draymond Green, for better or worse, has never lacked passion.